Okay, objective 3, construct pie charts. Pie charts are typically used to represent or present the relative frequency of qualitative data. In most cases, the data are nominal, but ordinal data can also be displayed in a pie chart. A pie chart is a circle divided into sectors. Each sector represents a category of data. The area of each sector is proportional to the frequency of the category. Example, constructing a pie chart. The frequency data presented back in the previous table represent the educational attainment of U.S. residents 25 years and older in 2016. The data are in thousands, so 23,453 represents 23,453,000. We want to construct a pie chart of the data. So in the previous example, we've already created the relative frequency for 2016. So what we want to do now is we're going to round this to 2 decimal places. So if we round this to 2 decimal places, this is going to give us 0.11. And if we round this to 2 decimal places, this is 0.29. Okay, and then round this to 2 decimal places, this is 0.17. And this is 0.10, 0.21, and then 0.13. Okay. Now, if we multiply this by 100%, then this is the same thing as 11%. And this is the same thing as 29%. Okay, and the next one is 17%. Okay, and then the next one is 10%. And then 21%. And then 13%. So that is the percentage of each particular item according to this total here of 215, actually million, 15,000. Now, when we want to be able to create a pie chart, the pie chart will have one part or sector corresponding to each category of data. The area of each sector is proportional to the frequency of each category. So, for example, from the table, the proportion of all U.S. residents 25 years and older who are not high school graduates in 2016 is 0.1091. The category not a high school graduate will make up to 10.91% or 11% of the area of the pie chart. Now, because a circle has 360 degrees, the degree measure of the sector for this category is going to be taking this number and multiplying it by 360 degrees, which is approximately 39 degrees. And so you would use a protractor to measure each angle. Well, let's go ahead in here. So the degree sector is going to be 0.1091, and we're going to multiply that by 360 degrees, which is then going to give us approximately 39 degrees. If we did the same thing with 0.2884, and if we multiply that by 360 degrees, then that's also going to give us approximately 104 degrees, okay? And then if we continued on, we would get 60 degrees, which is the same thing there by doing the same step previously, and then 36 degrees, and then 75 degrees, and then 45 degrees. Okay, so we're going to use the same approach for the remaining categories to obtain Table 7. So to construct a pie chart by hand, we're going to use a protractor to approximate the angles for each sector. So before we do anything, let's go ahead and then create a circle. So I'm going to get a circle, okay, and I'm going to create one here. All right. Okay, so what we want to do is we're going to first start with our category of the following. We're going to do the 39 degrees. Okay, so I'm going to approximate here. It's not going to be exact, but I want to give you an idea of what that would look like. Okay, so what's going to happen is from here to the center of the circle, you're going to measure 39 degrees. So if we go 39 degrees, then this is going to represent 11% of that data, okay, which is not a high school graduate. Okay, and then the next thing we're going to do is now we're going to go ahead and then do the next piece, which is the high school diploma. And the high school diploma is 104 degrees. So we would go 104 degrees and we would measure it 104 degrees from the beginning part here. So we're going to go 104 degrees. So that's going to represent 104 degrees. Okay, and we know that that represents 29%. So that's going to be 29%. Okay, and that 29% is the high school diploma. Okay, and now we're going to go a little further, and now we're going to do the some college and no degree. So we're going to go ahead and do that. So some college and no degree has a 60-degree angle. So we're creating a 60-degree angle here. So this is our 60 degrees. So again, this angle represents 60 degrees, just so that we understand what happens there. And the percentage is 17%. So this is going to represent 17%. And what do we know about this category? Well, this category represents some college, okay, no degree. Okay, next what we want to do is we want to find the associate's degree. So let's go ahead and do that. So we have associate's degree, and that associate's degree is 10%, but it's 36 degrees. So that means we're going to have a 36-degree angle here, okay? That's going to represent 10%. And again, that 10% represents associate's degree. Okay, next what we're going to do is now we're going to move to the bachelor's degree. And so what does the bachelor's degree tell us? Well, the bachelor's degree tells us that we have 21%. So we're going to use 21% here. So that's going to create a 21%. It has an angle of 75 degrees. So here's 75 degrees. And we know that that represents 21% of the data. And 21% of the data is bachelor's degree. Okay, and then our last one, okay, is going to be the graduate or professional degree, which is represent 13%, which is a 45-degree angle. Okay, so we have a 45-degree angle, which should be bigger than the blue one, so it's going to be bigger than that one. So I got to make sure that that represents 45 degrees, okay, which is 13%. So that should be larger than this one here. So we just need to change this just to be a little bit less than that, so that we're a little bit accurate with our picture, because this angle here needs to represent 45 degrees. Obviously, I'm doing this by hand and by assumption. Okay, so there is our 45 degrees. Okay, and we know that this is going to represent either our graduate or professional degree. Okay. Let's take a look at what the actual picture would look like. So pretty similar to what we have here. Okay. So we would fill in the colors of that particular pie chart, but it gives us an idea of what this would look like. Okay. Now, let's see how we do this by using our StatCrunch. So how would we use this using StatCrunch? Okay, we would have to use this either by summarizing the data or from raw data. Okay, so now we want to create a pie chart from summarized data. So we're going to go ahead and then open up StatCrunch. And what I've done is I went ahead and put in the information. So I typed in the educational attainment here, and then for 2016, here is the frequency distribution, okay? Because this is telling us how many numbers that you have for each particular educational attainment. So this represents summarized data, not raw data. Now, raw data would be that we would have all of these individual numbers into one particular column, which we do not have, okay? But in this scenario, this is what we're going to use. So we're going to use summarized data. So we put that information here. Now we're going to go ahead and select graph, and then we're going to go to pie chart. And then we're going to choose with summary because we have the summary. Okay, now the categories are going to be in the educational attainment because that's where the categories are. The counts in are the frequencies, which is in 2016. Okay, we want the count and we also want the percent of the total. So we're going to highlight both of those when we do that. Okay, and then we're going to make sure that we have it as a worksheet. All right, so therefore there is our information. And now let's go ahead and then select compute. So here is our graph. So we have our graph. I'm going to go ahead and copy this graph so that we have a better picture of this. And so here is our graph. Okay, so this is the information that we got from StatCrunch. Now again, we don't have the raw data because that's everything. So if we just had raw data, then you would use the raw data and use this information. So then you would go graph, highlight pie chart with the data, and then follow the same instructions. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to go down to the next part here. So the question states, when should a bar graph or pie chart be used? Okay, well, let's take a look here. All right, now pie charts are useful for showing the division of all possible values of a qualitative variable into its parts. However, because angles are often hard to judge in parts, they are not as useful in comparing two specific values of the qualitative variable. Instead, the emphasis is on comparing the part to the whole. Bar graphs are useful when we want to compare the different parts, not necessarily the parts to the whole. So for example, to get the big picture regarding educational attainment, a pie chart is a good visual summary. Here we can tell what proportion of the total is represented by the adults who had a bachelor's degree. However, it's difficult to compare the adults who got a bachelor's degree to the adults who got a high school diploma only. So again, this is kind of the pie chart information that we have. Okay, now to compare the bachelor degrees to high school diplomas, we need to create a bar graph for it to be a good visual summary. So let's go back in here and let's create a bar graph. So remember, how do we create a bar graph? We're going to go ahead and go to graph and we're going to select bar plot, and then this has the summary. Okay, the categories are educational attainment, the counts in are 2016, and we want a bar graph. So again, we're looking at the relative frequency. And then we're going to go to worksheet, and then we're going to put the values above the bar. And then let's go ahead and select compute. And so let's take a look at that. So here is our bar graph. Okay, so when we look at the bar graph, okay, here we can compare the height of each bar. And we can determine how much taller the high school diploma bar is than the bachelor's degree bar. Since bars are easier to draw and compare, some practitioners forego pie charts in favor of Pareto charts when comparing parts to the whole. And remember, Pareto charts is where you go from descending order. So for example, if we wanted to come back and then change the options in this, we would go to edit and then we would go, okay, how are we going to order this by? Well, we're going to order value in descending, okay, or the counts in descending, okay. So what that tells us now, if we look at this bar, then we can compare, okay, using the Pareto. This is the Pareto bar graph. Okay, and then we can see how the values are descending according to each particular bar.